Even back to the ancient, ancient Egyptians, that's how they would, determine who owns land. It would be through the recording process. It's an antiquated system, but we still use it today. One important thing which is significant here is ensuring the gap, and this, I'll expand a little bit about this. For example, when we buy a piece of property, we're sitting at the closing table, right? We sign all the documents, we buy the land, we buy the property, and now we see the deed, and now the deed has to go to recording. So sometimes, especially at the height of the real estate market, when there's many transactions that occur every day, there's a gap between the moment that you buy the land or the property to the actual time when the deed gets recorded. It could take up to a month, potentially, from when you buy it and tender the funds until the deed gets recorded. And that's the gap. So your insurance covers that as well. So for example, if the seller who you just bought the property to, he could go later that afternoon to another title company and sell the exact same piece of land to somebody else. Right? You don't know. Who knows? He could. That's what you're insuring. That's the gap. Okay? So yeah, you seem a little bit surprised. Is that the first time you've heard that?
I'll hold my comments for now.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you never get. I mean, yeah, we read about this stuff in law school where, in the morning I sell my land to somebody, and then in the afternoon I sell it to somebody else. Okay, it's obviously a fraudulent transaction, but it's certainly possible to do. Okay, one title company may not have noticed that he's selling that a transaction occurred at 10 a.m. and the same transaction could occur at 2 p.m. Same transaction. Now, whoever gets to the courthouse or the county clerk first and actually records the document, that person will be the owner. Okay, and the person that recorded second, he could have a significant issue as to whether or not he owns the land. Okay, these are certainly, that's the gap. The gap is from when you actually buy the land till the moment it gets recorded, and that could take a number of weeks. There could be contractors that file liens, all sorts of issues. So you're ensuring that period of time, which is called the gap. It's of significant importance in regards to title insurance. Okay. Title commitment. When you enter into a contract to buy real estate, first thing the title company is going to issue is what's known as essentially a title commitment. A title commitment is essentially the insurance company telling the purchaser that they're going to commit to selling this property to you. Okay, that is they're committing to that the seller is the rightful seller, etc. The title commitment is essentially a roadmap because it's going to establish particular requirements that need to be met by the title agent. There's going to be a list of 10 items. The mortgage has to be satisfied. This lien has to be settled. List pendants has to be removed from the record. We need a deed from this person. We need his grandmother to give a deed. We need a death certificate. All sorts of requirements are going to be listed within this title commitment. Once the requirements are satisfied, then you're ready to close. There's some things that don't appear on the title commitment, and those are building permit issues and municipal violations. Sometimes these things don't appear on the permits, and those would require additional searches and investigation. Sometimes issues come up regarding building permits and municipal violations, and these would require a larger investment in time and analysis and investigation to determine whether there are significant issues with these items or whether we can just proceed to close. Sometimes there are, I remember once we had an open roofing permit, which the roof wasn't properly, the roofing work wasn't properly inspected. So we had to hold some money in escrow, and then we had to bring in a roofing contractor and set up all the inspections, and then we would release the funds. That didn't appear on the title commitment. That was a separate investigation. Sometimes you have municipal violations. Sometimes you may not have notice of municipal violations. Significant issues may occur, which would require a little bit more legwork and advice by the attorneys and other professionals. Okay, closing costs. Generally, we have Broward buyer, Palm Beach seller. So in Broward, generally the buyer is going to be paying for most of the title, most of the closing costs, and in Palm Beach, we have the seller paying most of the closing. That's customary in our general vicinity here. Generally, title insurance, roughly, and this is just an estimation. Your title insurance is going to be about half a point of the total sales price. Now, as the investment grows larger, that is going to get smaller. Okay, so let's say you're buying property for $1 million, your title insurance is going to cost about $5,000. Okay, but if you're buying a $10 million property, it's probably going to be substantially less than a half a point. Okay, but if you buy a property worth $100,000, your title insurance is going to be more than just a half a point. It's a graduated scale, but on a, just basically you could figure your title insurance is going to cost about half a point. Okay, your recording fees, this is just strictly recording fees. It's $10 for the first page and then $8.50 for each additional page. Okay, so sometimes you have mortgages that are quite, large, these very large, that's kind of where, if you have a 20-page document, a mortgage, that's where some of these fees get a little larger. You have doc stamps. Doc stamps is kind of like a transfer tax, okay? And that's going to be 70 cents for every $100. That's to transfer the deed. If we have doc stamps for a mortgage, that's going to be 35 cents for every $100. And then for the mortgage, we have to pay an intangible tax, and that's 20 cents per $100. And these are paid to the county clerk. These are, standard fees to the county clerk. And these are pretty much standard closing costs that pretty much everyone's going to have to pay. I mean, no which way, every which way you cut it, these are going to be your minimum costs at a minimum. I mean, if there are other issues and you need to pay attorneys hourly to negotiate certain problems and issues, these don't include like settlement fees, settlement charges, etc. Sometimes most of the time, or sometimes we need a survey, depending on the type of survey. We have a title search, we have a municipal lien search, but these are pretty much your basic costs. Obviously, this would be the minimum. There's significant additional costs as necessary. All right. Okay, title insurance, obviously one of the major factors when we're dealing with title insurance is we're going to be dealing with liens and we're dealing with list pendants. All right. All right. Now, what a lien is essentially, bottom line is it's notice. Okay, somebody's giving notice that he's owed money, and based on this property. So, for example, contractors are, they're primarily the people that file liens. They're owed money because they invested in labor and materials on a particular property, so they go and file a lien. A lien is just notice. They go and record a document that says that they're owed money. They go and record it, and anytime somebody wants to sell the property, when the title search is done, that lien is going to show up, okay? Because they file it under the owner's